It's been a really long time since I've watched the show, and I've enjoyed it so much that through its story and how the anime is, I say to it, yes. Guys, I give you my review of Gate. Gate. Thus, the Japanese Self-Defense Force fought there. Let me get a bit of information out of the way before I get to the review, of course. Gate is a two-season anime with 24 episodes that aired from July 4th, 2015 to March 26, 2016. And is animated by A1 Pictures, so of course it looks amazing. And currently the anime is only sub, there's no dub that I could find of. So, the story of Gate starts off sort of like this. In modern time, in the Ginza district of Tokyo, Japan, a sudden gate appears, and through that gate, creatures come out, monsters, knights, and dragons. And when they come out, they start destroying the area around them. But at the same time, our protagonist, Yoji Itama, is there, and he's there because he's going to an anime convention. So right off the back, and even in the start of the first episode, he lets us know that he is a 33-year-old man that's an otaku. And while he's there, he sees these monsters destroying the area and even going as far as killing people. So with his quick actions, he ends up fighting these monsters just to prevent from his convention from closing. But in the process, he does end up saving several lives. His quick actions that helped the police in that local area helped save hundreds of lives. And after this event happens, his actions are recognized by the Japanese Self-Defense Force, and he is promoted to first lieutenant. And on doing so, we find out that, of course, Yoji is a Self-Defense Force soldier. And after these events, the Japanese government decides that they are going to go through the gate themselves and see what's on the other side. And from there, our story takes off, with Yuji Itami going through the gate and meeting several people. Now, with the beginning of the story, set, let's move on to the characters. And from there, I'll go further into the story. So, like I've mentioned, our protagonist, Yuji Itami, is a 33-year-old man living in Japan, and he is a Japanese self-defense force. And right off the bat, which I liked that the anime did, was he himself mentioned that he is an otaku and he works to support his hobby. And he himself says, what would I put first, my hobby or my work? Of course, my hobby. Which is, at least he said it himself. And also, like I mentioned, he becomes the hero of Ginza due to the fact that he did end up helping save hundreds of lives when the attack happened in Japan. With these monsters and knights killing people, he ended up working with the local police to guide people to safety. So he is known as a hero and is promoted to first lieutenant in the Japanese Self-Defense Force. And from there, we get to see a good look on the very first episodes. We get to see a very good look on our character, Yuji, that he is a very capable person. He's very cool-headed when action's going around, when chaos is going around. He's very cool-headed. And throughout the show, we see this too. He's a very good leader. He's able to lead people and keep them safe, which is his priority, of keeping people safe, which I like that. And we get to see these sort of actions throughout the show, which I really liked about him as a protagonist. And not only is he a very good leader by, keeping people safe and stuff, he's also a very good soldier. When it's time for action, when it's actually battle time, he's very capable. He's, as a soldier, and he's very capable of taking lives and not, be affected by it, which is something very cool that the show did. That he's not very affected by it because, of course, he is a soldier. He's trained to do his job. So, after going through the gate, Yoji Itami receives command of Recon Team 3. And he does get several soldiers under his command, but only a few do get screen time to be mentionable. So the main people in his teams are these few. Sergeant Second Class Kurata, and he's also a quote-unquote otaku, and he does share with our protagonist that he was there in the convention, and he did get a couple of stuff. Next, we have Sergeant First Class Tomita, Sergeant First Class Shina Kuribayashi, and she's a very interesting soldier. She doesn't really like Yoji Itami because of his otaku nature, and she doesn't like that he acts like a fool, yet he's a first lieutenant, and we later find out that he's a certified ranger, and he's also spec ops, which is very cool, and we get awesome reactions when she hears that. And next we have Sergeant First Class Kurakawa, and she is the medic of the team, and I liked her. She's very nice. She does get a bit of a plot point towards the middle of the anime, but they don't go anywhere with it, which is a bit disappointing, but let's move on. Next character, we have Tuka Luna Marciu. I believe that's how you say your name. But she is a 165-year-old elf, and compared to her age in elf age, she's very young. And she's introduced in early episodes of the anime, I believe episode 3. And Yoji Itami and his team find her at the bottom of a well. And this is due to the fact that a fire dragon attacked her village and destroyed the village and killed everyone there except for her. And we get to later on in the anime, we get to see how she can't handle the realism of her entire village being destroyed and her father killed, and we get to see that later on in the anime. But after she is rescued, she ends up joining Itami's team, and she ends up hanging around him. Next character, we have Lele La Lelina. Her name rhymes. And she is a 15-year-old magic user in this world, this new region. She's introduced very early in the show, like Tuka, but after Tuka. And she is introduced when Yoji's team is helping a village move out due to the fact that there's a fire dragon in the area, and his team is helping them out. But as they're doing that, the fire dragon starts attacking them, and Yoji and his team engage the dragon, wounding him, not killing it, wounding it, and the dragon, flies away. And she's very amazed at the fact that these green people are able to fight off such a tremendous creature. And because of that, she ends up following Yoji to sort of hang around him. And in the show, she takes a very important role. This is due to the fact that she picks up the Japanese language very quickly, and she becomes a very important asset for the Japanese Self-Defense Force, so that because she can be used as a translator. And she does. She ends up translating for several, let's say, higher-ups between Japan and this new region that is controlled by the Empire. Next character, and my most favorite character, is Rory Mercury. Now she's a 961-year-old demigoddess. And she's also an apostle of Emroy, the god of death, war, crime, and madness. Now Rory, she's a very interesting character, and like I mentioned, my favorite one. She gets a lot of screen time, and I like her because she always ends up flirting with Yoji. She is always close to him. Now Rory is introduced right around the time when Lele is also introduced. She ends up being amazed on how these green people, the Japanese Self-Defense Force, fight the dragon, and she ends up joining them due to interest, I guess. And like I mentioned, she is my favorite character due to the fact that she's always flirting with Yoji. She always wants to get close to him. And it does get to a point where they were about to go down, but Yoji, he sees her as a minor, so he's always, careful because, Japan has laws that protect minors from, sexual stuff. So he's always careful about that. He's always, keeping his hands but I like her because she always ends up messing with him, and she's very friendly, she's very talkative, and I don't know, I just like her overall character, the way she acts. She acts a bit gothic, but not really. I don't know. It's very cool. And since she is a demigoddess, she's also very strong, very fast, and she can heal from any wound. So that comes in very handy throughout the show when there's a couple of battles going on. And a little fun fact about her when I was researching the show is that I didn't know that when a demigoddess or demigod reaches 1,000 years of age in this show, they ascend and become an actual god or goddess. This isn't said in the show, but just a little something that I found out, which I found a bit interesting. Next character we have Yao Hadoshi. I believe that's how you say your name. Now she is a some 300-year-old dark elf that's introduced towards the middle of the show, towards the end. And her deal is that she is searching for these green men, the Japanese Self-Defense Force, to come and help her because the fire dragon attacked her village as well. And eventually she does find them, and she begs the Japanese Self-Defense Force to help her, but they can't. This is due to the fact that to get to her village they have to cross a border, and the general there explains that if they do that it would be seen as a sign of an invading force, so they can't help her. But she overhears that Yoji Itami would definitely help her. And after a bit of an argument between the two and some stuff happening, Yoji, he does end up helping her, and in the process he gains her, meaning he now owns her because she helped him. I guess it's mentioned in the show that she would offer herself as payment. So now that's Yoji and his team. Now let's move on to the empire that's controlling this region, which is called the Empire. And knowing that, let's move on to the royal family. First, we have the third child of the emperor, Princess Piña Colada. And sadly enough, her name is like the drink Piña Colada, but she's not a Piña Colada, okay? And when she's introduced, she's in the need of help, and Yoji and his team end up helping her. And through the process of Yoji and his team helping, she ends up seeing how capable the Japanese Self-Defense Force and how strong they are. And she quickly realizes if the Empire continues the war with the Japanese, they will lose. So right after Yoji finishes helping her when she needs help, she quickly begins to start peace talks, and she starts off with Yoji with the sort of surrender treatment in where they are. And after this event is sorted out with Yoji helping her, she does end up agreeing to their peace terms as of that time, and they both part ways. And as Yoji is leaving, he and his team end up being stopped by Piña's knights, and he does end up being captured and treated very badly. And when Piña sees this, she automatically thinks they're doomed, that they're all dead because their commanding officer is treated like a slave. So that was a very interesting sight to see when this happens. And since I mentioned her knights, Piña is in command of the Order of the Rose Knights. Now, these knights are made up of all females that are under her command. And in the show, we do get to see them in action, which is pretty cool. Again, the animation of the action, of course, it's great. But back to her. I do like the way she does things in the anime, and she does end up going through a tragic state, which is very interesting. But overall, she's a good character. And I found funny that she ends up liking Yaoi Doshi, which is a sort of manga, light novel for females, which I found kind of funny. And she keeps mentioning that as art, which is pretty funny. I know you might not get it, but watch the show and you'll get it. Now, next we have Sozar El Kasar. He is Piña's older brother and the next in line to rule the kingdom. Now we don't see much of him. We do get some, scenes here and there, but at the end of the show, he does get a good amount of screen time. But what we do get to see is him being a bastard. And he is. And I like how the show really did make him look like one. Next, we have Emperor Motso Augustus. Augustus, hint hint, the Roman Empire. Now he's very stubborn on fighting Japan, thinking that, he can win. But after seeing what he can do, he right away, says, let's begin the peace talks. And, smart too. He is, a very smart king, because when Japan got into this region, he not only used the imperial forces, he used the states armies that surround the empire to weaken them so he can control them with a stronger grip. So he is smart, using troops from his opponents to weaken them. So that's very cool to see. But again, after seeing the Japanese forces and how capable they are and strong, he does end up agreeing to the peace talks between the Empire and Japan. So those are the very main characters of the show. There are several other characters, but these are the ones that do get a significant amount of screen time to be mentioned. So final thoughts and things I liked and disliked about the show. So right off the bat, I loved our main protagonist, Yoji Itami. I love the fact that in this show, he is an adult. And this is very cool, because many animes that are, out there, our main protagonist is either a male or female, but not this one. We get to see decisions that Yoji makes as an adult, which is very cool. I like that he is an adult, and I like the fact that he is a soldier, which is very cool. And also, I do like the way he interacts with the characters around him. I like that he is portrayed as a nice guy. And he's not only portrayed, we get to see this throughout the show, that he is very kind. He reaches his hands out to aid people that he doesn't even know, but he goes out of his way to help them, which is very cool. It gives him a lot of character. And this is where a lot of main characters in other shows falter at. He not only does get portrayed, but he does act as the nice guy, while other main protagonists in other shows are only just portrayed as the nice person. But the main thing I loved about this anime is the combination of our modern world being introduced into a still developing world, a world that is still using swords and shields and metal armor as knights. I love that they did that, and the combination in the interaction between the two is very cool. I loved it. I loved the way it's done, and it's done perfectly, which I loved. And this is where two animes that come to mind didn't do. First one is The Familiar of Zero. The Familiar of Zero, I know it's a fantasy world, just like this one, and the protagonist is of our modern time, yet he doesn't get to the extent of introducing his world to that world. And here, our world is brought to this new region, which is very cool. Another anime that kind of tried to hint and tried to do this like Gate was Outbreak Company. But Outbreak Company, since it's only 12 episodes, it couldn't get to the extent of this anime. But, at least they tried, but they couldn't get to the extent of this anime. Another thing I liked about the show was that not only did we get to be introduced into this new region, and we get to see Yoji Itami go throughout this region, and we get to see several landscapes, we get to meet several people, several interactions with not only Yoji's team, but also, higher ups of the empire. We also get to see Yoji bring Lele, Tuka, Rory, and Pina to our world, which is very cool. The anime didn't have to do that, but they did. So I love that. I love that they went out of their way to not only show us as, modern humans seeing this new world in their region, we also get to see the people of that region come to our world and just be amazed on how advanced we are. And I love that the show did that. And I love the reaction of the characters. When they saw our world, they were amazed. Another thing I liked about the show was the action. The action was great. I loved how overkill the action was. The Japanese Self-Defense Force, compared to these forces of the region, it was overkill. I mean, one helicopter took out hundreds of people by just spraying them in one go. So I liked that. I liked the action. It was very cool. And the animation too. The animation of the soldiers were great, especially when they were fighting. You know, the movement of the soldiers felt very real, very tactical when they were doing things, and I like that. I like that about the show. And a little something I found out while I was again researching the show was that the writer, the creator of this anime, did actually go to a Japanese self-defense force base and was able to see, you know, the soldiers in action, in training, and stuff like that. So because of that, we do get to see the realism, and I did feel how real the movement of the soldiers felt, which was great. But on the other side, I do have some things that did bug me of the show. One of the main things and issues that I had with the show was that the characters in the show didn't have much depth to them. Yoji, sure, since he is our protagonist. But other than that, none of the other characters had depth to them. We didn't get to see much of their backstory that would make them, which is a bit of a fall back on the anime that it didn't have time to show the backstories of these characters. Some of them did flashbacks here and there, but it wasn't enough, which I'm counting against the show because it couldn't do that. But I'm not exactly counting it against it because I believe 24 episodes wasn't enough for the show. It wasn't. For all this information that we gain, all of this huge world and interaction between us and them, 24 episodes was not enough. So I'm not exactly counting it against it, but what I am counting is that 24 episodes, it's not enough. And another thing I didn't like about the show was that at the end of the show, it left me with an empty feeling. A feeling saying, that's it? The show did end in a cliffhanger, but there are several strings in the show that were left dangling and weren't tied up before the ending. Sure, the ending has a conclusion, and it could be used if there isn't a third season as a closing of the show, but at the end of the show, it left me unsatisfied. It left me with a feeling of they could have done more. But with only 24 episodes, that's not enough time. So it's a very tricky situation. And as far as I know, a third season hasn't been announced. So through the interactions, actions throughout the show, events happening in the show, I really enjoyed this show. I had an amazing time watching it. This show is one of those few shows that I stayed up until 4 in the morning. In one go, I watched 8 episodes because I could not let go of my screen. This show just grabbed me and took me into this show, which I loved about this show. It caught my attention of wanting to see more. And as a matter of fact, I watched this anime in 3 days. 3 days because at the second day, I only had 3 episodes left. And I forced myself to skip a day so I could at least drag out the show a bit more. Because I finished this show quick. Episode after episode, I wanted to see what was happening. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. And I love that. But since the anime itself isn't done, the ending isn't there, I cannot give it a high score. Believe me, I was thinking of giving it a 5, even a 4.5. But after the show ended and I was looking at it, sitting down and thinking about it, the show isn't done. There's still so much that needs to be done in the show. That's why I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars. This show is a great show. I loved it. I love this show. But anyway guys, that's my review of Gate. Now you can find this anime on Crunchyroll. I'll leave the link in the description for you to watch at crunchyroll.com, or you could download the app on your mobile phone or tablet. You can watch it there. And not only that, but Crunchyroll offers you a huge list of animes that you can just pick out and watch after you're done watching Gate. Well, anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope I convinced you to watch this show because it's an amazing show. You'll have a really great time watching it. I assure you, it's a great show which I found amazing to watch. Well, anyway guys, thanks for watching my review. Leave a like if you liked it. And hey, subscribe. I'm definitely going to be making more reviews. I still have several animes to review, which I will. Well, anyway guys, thanks for watching and see you next time.